Borax has one real gardening job and several popular jobs it was never suited for. It can supply boron, a tiny plant nutrient, but the useful dose sits close to the dose that damages a bed. Get the handful-style weed killer recipe wrong, and tomatoes or citrus can develop scorched tips and dieback while excess boron stays in the soil. Leave loose powder where a dog, child, bird, or small mammal can reach it, and you have made an ingestion risk, not a contained treatment. Miss the dose in the other direction, and beets can turn corky while brassicas develop hollow stems. After 55 years of gardening since I was 15, I judge a fix by what it does to the whole patch. We'll look at boron's real job, the symptoms and lookalikes, the test-confirmed dose, ant baits, and the myths that belong on the shelf. Borax is sodium borate. In a garden, its real job is to supply boron, a micronutrient plants use in cell walls, membranes, sugar movement, pollen, and seed set. That matters. A plant short of boron can struggle to make sound new growth and set seed, but it needs a trace, not a dusting all over the yard. So don't treat borax as general plant food. It does not replace decent soil, balanced feeding, water, or healthy roots. And if a box claims it will feed plants, kill weeds, cure disease, and sort pests, the box is not the clever part of that arrangement. Before you handle the stuff, don't raise dust, and don't get it in your eyes or on your skin. Significant inhalation or swallowing can cause agitation, nausea, vomiting, and spasms because borate ions interfere with cell metabolism and can affect the cardiovascular and nervous systems. Substantial exposure can also harm fertility and an unborn child. Repeated barehanded handling is not harmless. Now, look at the label on the box you have. Plain borax is typically about 11% boron. Laundry boosters and borate blends may contain detergents or other added ingredients, so don't use an internet recipe that assumes they are all the same. Set it aside unless you have a boron-specific reason. The first question is what low boron actually looks like in young leaves, flowers, roots, and stems, especially on brassicas, beets, and celery. Boron shortage usually shows up where the plant is still trying to grow. Most crops cannot move much boron out of old leaves, so young growing points and flowers suffer first. You may see a dying tip, twisted yellow or reddish new leaves, stunting, poor pollen, fewer flowers, or flowers that fail to set seed. Brassicas can develop hollow stems. Beets and turnips can grow hollow or corky roots. Celery can show brown checking, those brown cracks running across the petiole. Those are sensible reasons to investigate boron. They are not proof that borax is the cure. Tip burn, chlorosis, cracking, and hollow tissue can also come from calcium problems, excess nitrogen, drought, salinity, pests, or damaged roots. Boron uptake changes with moisture, pH, root health, and the soil's living fungi. I have gardened since I was 15, and I would not pretend I can identify boron from one brown edge or one hollow stalk. If you only have a couple of mild, localized symptoms, check watering, feeding, and pests first. If the damage is severe, keeps returning, or appears across several crops, request a soil test that specifically measures boron or arrange tissue testing. A standard home panel may leave boron out. That test and the crop you intend to grow have to come before any measured borax reaches the bed. That test gives you permission to consider borax, not permission to guess. Boron has one of the narrowest gaps between deficiency and toxicity of any plant nutrient. Adequate dried leaf tissue for many crops is about 25 to 75 parts per million. Above roughly 200 parts per million in mature leaves can be excessive for sensitive vegetables, and beans, onions, and grasses may scorch, stunt, and lose yield after a modest overshoot. Before handling the powder, know that borax irritates skin and eyes. Significant inhalation or ingestion can cause agitation, nausea, vomiting, and spasms, and substantial exposure is classified as capable of harming fertility and the unborn child. Keep dust out of the air and protect skin and eyes. Ask whether the lab measured boron. If it is below 1 part per million and you are growing boron-demanding crops, guidance allows about 1 tablespoon of plain household borax, assumed to contain 11% boron per 100 square feet. Measure the bed, measure the powder, and mix it thoroughly through the soil. Do not turn that into a spoonful per plant or pour it around tomato roots. Uneven mixing creates hot spots that injure feeder roots, especially in shallow raised beds. This is seasoning, not compost. Broadcast only when the test and crop justify it. Mixed or drip irrigated beds need professional advice. Rain, drainage, irrigation water, grasses, and neighboring plants can change the risk. Boron dissolves in water. Sandy soil with little organic matter can lose it after hard rain, standing water, or long irrigation, so a confirmed shortage may return sooner than field guidance suggests. Retest. Do not assume one dose covers years. Dry or poorly drained ground is different. Where irrigation water carries boron, excess can remain in the root zone for seasons. Heavy rain or overwatering straight after an application can also drive a strong pulse through active roots, leaving sensitive plants wilted or scorched. Excess boron damages cell membranes and builds up mainly in older leaves, causing brown burnt edges and tips, then leaf drop. Severe cases leave corky, cracked stems or bark, and high levels may interfere with soil microbes. If you see that pattern, stop adding boron. Test the soil and irrigation water, improve drainage where appropriate, and use good quality water over time. Do not add another product to cancel it out, and do not apply borax before sowing turf, grasses, cereals, pasture, hay, or grain-like ornamentals. Young grass seedlings can fail at levels brassicas may tolerate. In a semi-desert, your concern is fair. Boron can leach with drainage and good water, but get professional guidance first. A raised bed is not one bucket of identical dirt, especially under one drip line. Soil borax is one thing, and enclosed ant bait is another. An ant bait typically holds about 5% borax in a food mix inside a closed station. That is meant to limit access. Scattering dry borax in a bed puts it into the root zone and leaves crystals where a dog, a child, a bird, or a small mammal can find them. My garden already has borax ant baits, so soil borax should not make much difference. That is incorrect. A bait station contains a small amount behind a housing. Soil use adds boron across the bed and makes loose material available to anything that forages there, and do not treat that exposure lightly. In pets and livestock, meaningful ingestion can cause diarrhea, muscle twitching, rapid collapse, and seizures. There is no specific antidote. Treatment is supportive care and fluids. Use bait only in its intact, labeled station, placed where children and animals cannot open it. Never swap the station for loose powder. If a child or animal eats bait contents or loose borax, contact poison control or a veterinary poison service straight away. A toddler who gets into bait may vomit or have diarrhea, sometimes with blue-green stool or vomit. Larger ingestions can lead to seizures and coma. Wildlife limits are less certain, which is reason enough not to leave powder outdoors. That is my rule on this place. Solve the ant problem without laying a second trap for something that was never the problem. And now, we need to deal with the recipes that spread loose borax on purpose as weed killer, fungicide, fertilizer, and supposed cure-all. Borax weed killer can raise surface soil boron above about 1 ppm. Tomatoes, citrus, figs, and melons may then suffer scorched tips, dieback, and failed growth, while the excess remains until good quality water and time leach it deeper. Leave homemade weed killer mixes alone. The fungicide claim fails too. Boron can affect fungi at high concentrations, but that does not make borax a selective disease treatment, and those concentrations may disturb soil microorganisms involved in nutrient cycling. Identify the disease or disorder before choosing control. As general fertilizer, borax is worse advice. Boron is needed in a narrow range, and yard-wide sprinkling can injure plants that never needed it. As an all-purpose pest cure, it fails for the same reason. An ant bait works through food and an enclosed station. Loose crystals do not know which insect you meant. I rent and don't want to damage the soil for the next tenant. That is the right concern. Use reversible measures, organic matter, balanced fertilizer, water management, or a raised bed with imported soil. I would pull a weed twice before poisoning the bed. Leave borax off weeds, disease, and general feeding. First, the crop and soil must earn a measured correction. A standard soil test may not even include boron, and one result from a raised bed can miss what is happening under a drip line. Brown checking, hollow stems, tip burn, and stunting overlap with watering trouble, calcium balance, poor roots, and other stresses. A low number, a symptom, and a cure are three different things. So use a 4-part screen before you buy or open borax. The crop, a specific boron test, your irrigation and drainage, and whether pets, children, or wildlife can reach the bed. If any of those answers are doubtful, leave loose borax on the shelf. Need a quick fix this week for celery or hollow brassicas? Adjust watering and broader feeding, support the crop, and get targeted foliar guidance from a local crop professional. Do not pour an internet mix around the roots because the calendar feels rude. And if you grow turf, grasses, small grains, pasture, hay, corn, or grain-like ornamentals, borax is generally the wrong tool. Young grass seedlings can be damaged outright at levels brassicas and beets may tolerate. Only consider the supplied rate when a specific test is below 1 ppm. You are growing a boron-demanding crop. The product is plain borax assumed to be 11% boron, and you can manage the site long-term. 1 tablespoon per 100 square feet, mixed thoroughly. That protects the beans, onions, tomatoes, pets, and future crops sharing the ground. Tell me what crop made you look at borax first? Brassicas, beets, celery, tomatoes, weeds, or ants? And is your garden sandy and rainy, or dry with slow drainage and irrigation water you do not fully know? Next time we'll look at no-tool ways to grow more and work less. Until then, keep the loose borax off the ground.